I mean, what makes this specifically a neurodivergent parallel?
That's a great question. The source clarifies this distinction perfectly. It's not just that they're confused, it's about how they approach the confusion.
Okay, how so?
Neurodivergent thinking often prioritizes directness in systems. The Solomons, as a literal expeditionary force, approach Earth with a scientific, systematic mind. They expect logic. They expect A plus B to...
Equals C.
Right. But human society doesn't run on pure logic. It runs on unwritten subtext, context, historical nuance, and irrational emotions.
Right, like if I ask you how you are doing, you should theoretically give me a detailed, accurate assessment of your current physical and mental state.
Because that is the literal translation of the question.
Right. But neurotypical society demands a polite, I'm fine, and you. Even if, like, the building is on fire.
Exactly. When the aliens encounter this arbitrary etiquette, their deep confusion perfectly aligns with the frustration of being told to just read the room.
Ugh, read the room. Telling a highly systematic thinker to just read the room is like asking someone to navigate a bustling city using a map that only shows the sewer lines.
That is a perfect analogy.
They have incredibly detailed information, but it's completely the wrong data set for what society is demanding in that moment. They see the physical dimensions of the room, they hear the literal words being spoken, but that they don't see the invisible social web.
And that friction isn't a failure of intelligence. It's the friction between a systematic brain and an unsystematic society.
Yeah.
And what's brilliant is that you see the systemic processing play out differently across the family unit.
Right, because neurodivergence isn't just one thing.
Exactly. The writers didn't just create one monolithic alien brain. They distributed different processing styles across the characters. Let's look at Dick Solomon, High Commander.
Oh, Dick. His software incompatibility manifests as like the ultimate hyperfixation.
The obsessive need to understand everything.
Yes. If Dick gets interested in a human concept, whether it's the protocol of tipping at a restaurant, the abstract concept of justice, or just the mechanics of a cheap magic trick, he will dismantle it completely.
He locks onto a subject with an intensity that overrides all social propriety, simply because he has to know the why behind the what.
Right.
His need for systemic understanding acts as an anchor. When the world is chaotic, pulling apart a single subject until he understands every microscopic detail provides a sense of control.
Which totally reflects the neurodivergent experience of special interests, right?
Absolutely. Deep consuming focus is actually a regulatory tool. But his need for that understanding often puts him at odds with the people around him who just want him to act normal.
Yeah.
Now, contrast that pursuit of logic with Sally, the security officer. She was placed in a female human body. Because she lacks any innate understanding of Earth's patriarchal history, she approaches gender as a bizarre, inefficient set of rules forced upon her.
Right. She's like, why do women have to modulate their voices? Why are the clothing options so restrictive? Why is there an entirely different set of expectations for her behavior compared to Dick's?
Exactly. She's constantly questioning the logic of patriarchy just by trying to exist comfortably in her own skin.
I mean, for many neurodivergent individuals, especially those assigned female at birth, societal gender norms feel exactly like this.
Arbitrary performative actions.
Yes. Actions that don't come naturally, but must be learned and executed to avoid social friction. Masking for neurodivergent women often involves heavily mirroring the behaviors of neurotypical peers, or even characters from television, just to blend in.
Sally's confusion validates that experience of feeling like gender is an intricate costume that doesn't quite fit and requires constant adjustment.
It's so brilliant how the writers split these experiences up. You have Dick wrestling with the logic of concepts, Sally wrestling with societal roles, Tommy wrestling with peer masking.
But what about the physical environment itself?
Mm-hmm.
Because processing the world differently isn't just about social rules, it's about how the brain handles sensory input.
Oh, right, Harry.
That brings us to Harry, the communicator. The source highlights Harry as the representation of unique sensory processing and literal glitches. His primary function is receiving incoming messages from their homeworld, from the big giant head.
And he suddenly freezes, his arms shoot up into the air, and he starts transmitting this bizarre physical frequency. It's played for laughs, of course. Oh, totally. But it looks remarkably like a physical tack or a sudden, uncontrollable response to an internal stimulus.
But look beyond the actual transmissions, though. Watch how Harry moves through the world on a regular basis. He is constantly distracted by stimuli the others don't even register.
His sensory intake appears completely unregulated.
Yes. He moves his body at strange angles, his reactions to sound or light are exaggerated, and he often focuses on the entirely wrong detail in a room. For users with unique sensory processing profiles, those who experience hypersensitivity to their environment, Harry's unfiltered reactions are incredibly recognizable.
He isn't filtering out the background noise. He's experiencing all of it at full volume all the time.
Exactly. It allows the viewer to see various facets of their own internal life represented externally by this family unit. You might relate to Dick's hyperfixation on Monday, Sally's frustration with social roles on Tuesday, and Harry's sensory overwhelm by Friday.
It creates such a comprehensive tapestry of the outsider experience. But, the analysis we're looking at today pushes this idea beyond just how the characters are written on the page.
Right, it looks at the actual performances.
Exactly. It makes a compelling argument about how the show is physically acted. Specifically, that the performances provide their own unique neurological comfort.
Oh, we absolutely have to talk about the hurricane of energy that is John Lithgow.
Yes, watching his portrayal of Dick Solomon is like knowing someone who had the volume knob on their emotions broken off at the absolute maximum setting.
There is no middle ground with him.
None. If he's happy, he's screaming with joy. If he's confused, it spirals into a catastrophic existential crisis.
And that too muchness is a critical anchor for this audience. Society constantly conditions individuals who process emotions intensely to shrink themselves.
Oh yeah. They are told they are too loud, too intense, too sensitive, too enthusiastic.
And the psychological toll of constantly dialing down your natural reactions, of policing your own excitement or distress to make neurotypical people comfortable, is immense. It leads to severe burnout.
And then you turn on primetime television, and there is John Lithgow taking up all the space in the room.
He isn't apologizing for his intensity.
No. His intensity is the driving force of the entire narrative.
It provides a safe space where having big, uncontainable reactions isn't a problem to be solved or a symptom to be suppressed. It's normalized, and it's celebrated through comedy. It gives the viewer permission to simply exist at a high volume.
That is so freeing.
But there's an even deeper neurological layer to Lithgow's performance and the pacing of the show in general that the source brings up regarding dopamine regulation.
Okay, yeah. This is where we get into the show functioning as a form of visual stimming.
Exactly.
Because the autistic or ADHD brain is often actively hunting for dopamine release to reach a baseline level of focus. We usually think of physical stimming, like, tapping a foot, pacing, or using a fidget tool to bridge that gap.
Right, but the visual and auditory input of certain media can act as a substitute for that physical movement.
That makes total sense.
The source suggests that the top-tier pacing, the incredibly fast dialogue, and the intense physical slapstick of Third Rock from the Sun fulfill that specific craving for stimulation.
It's not just a passive distraction.
No, the high energy of the performances provides a concentrated burst of unpredictable but safe stimuli.
Wow, because a slow, muted, subtle drama requires intense concentration on unstated subtext, which can be draining for a brain that is already exhausted from masking all day.
Right.
But this show is bright, fast, loud, and physically dynamic.
It feeds the brain's need for input without asking it to decode invisible social cues. It is a predictable environment of unpredictable physical comedy.
The narrative structure is easy to follow, but the delivery is highly stimulating.
It engages the executive function without taxing it.
It's giving your brain exactly the kind of fast-paced, high-intensity processing it craves, wrapped in a narrative that validates your fundamental experience of the world. It's wild to think about a piece of 90s media functioning as a neurological tool.
It achieves a very specific kind of alchemy. It takes the painful, exhausting reality of the outsider perspective, the daily reality of masking, of struggling with unwritten rules, of sensory overwhelm, and it completely reframes it.
Yeah.
The aliens aren't broken humans, they're perfect aliens trying to operate in a broken, illogical system.
That is such a powerful takeaway for you, our listener, today. Understanding the media we gravitate toward can actually help us understand our own brains, giving us a new vocabulary for how we interact with the world around us.
It replaces the heavy, punishing manual of societal expectations with a much lighter, more forgiving script.
We want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you go about the rest of your week. The next time you find yourself frustrated by an illogical social rule, maybe it's making small talk at a terrifying networking event or trying to navigate the weird etiquette of a gift exchange at work, what if you tried adopting the Solomon's alien anthropologist mindset? If you treat the confusing social norms of Earth as Fascinating irrational research data. Rather than a personal test you're failing. Wait, well, rather than a personal test you're failing, could it turn your own everyday stress into a bit of an inside joke?